I refer to it as a ski mask job. That's what we call these Sam Hinkie things, is put away the ski mask, something for nothing. I mean, you gave up nothing and got a ton. You got a top 10 pick. You got a guy in Jason Thompson that's from the area who's excited to be there, who can bring some veteran, maturity to that roster. There's a ton in that deal, and it's not like somebody was lining up to be a 76er as a free agent anyway. So, again, this is Sam Hinkie getting a ton, and the fact that you get a first-round pick and the right to swap picks, it's just all kinds of value for something that was probably going to go unused.
Yeah, let's look at the key piece of the deal, which is Nick Stauskas. Now, he was a guy that I really liked last year coming out of the draft. He went 8 overall. Did not have a lot of time. I mean, they just didn't play him a lot, and it's not like it was a good team. So, on the surface, people could say, well, he wasn't very good last year. Why is everybody getting excited? What do you see when you see Nick Stauskas in Philadelphia?
Well, he didn't have much of an opportunity with the Sacramento Kings. And, look, opportunity a lot of times is earned, but when you've got a Ben McLemore in front of you and a Rudy Gay, and you are really kind of a one-tool guy, Nick Stauskas, very much like Tony Roten, is going to get a chance to jump in the very deep end of the pool and get some shots. The Sixers very much need outside shooting. That's what Nick can bring. He can handle the ball. So you talk about backup point guard role behind Isaiah Cannon. There are a lot of options that you get with Nick Stauskas. And, I'm kind of like this about guys who come into the league and get thrown on the floor, is you're going to get humbled and you're going to probably work a little bit harder, and then you're going to come out with something to prove. And I think that's the interesting part of this, is that Nick Stauskas is a very good basketball player, was in a tough spot last year, and I think he's going to come into camp with a chip on his shoulder, and that can only be good. Either he'll be good for you long-term in terms of a building block piece, or he'll get so good at it that he becomes valuable in a situation where you can trade him for something that's a building block piece. There's no risk in this at all.
37 wins over 2 seasons. They took Okafor. Some people said, all right, well, you got the best player available, but, you already had those positions. After the deal last night and the assets they have moving forward, which is pretty unbelievable to think they have 7 first-round picks over the next 3 seasons, do you look at the 76ers now as a team that is ready to take that next step and move forward out of the teens and maybe, I don't know, say scratch the playoff surface, but should Sixers fans start expecting more than 18 and 19 win seasons?
Well, the head coach expects more, and that's a good thing. It's not about, our job here is to develop young guys. I've known Sam Hinkie personally for a really long time, and I've spent some time sitting with him and talking with him to what they're trying to accomplish in Philadelphia. And the mantra is great, not good. They're not looking for a handful of good players who can be the 8th seed. They want to swing for the fences and try to get some great players so that they can become champions. And when you look at what the Golden State Warriors did, while they certainly did some of it through free agency, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Harrison Barnes, Cestus Ezeli, you just run down the list. Those were draft picks. Those were guys that came to the Golden State Warriors when they were dreadfully bad for almost a decade, and now they're a champion and set up to be a champion. That's what Philly's plan has been. And, I know some people look at the Okafor deal and say you have that guy, but you really don't. Nerlens Noel is a very defensive-minded player who can be an anchor and block some shots. That's what Jahlil Okafor isn't. What Jahlil is a dominant low-post presence who can score in the block. You can throw him the ball and get a bucket. And those two guys together on the floor, when Nerlens holding down the defensive end and Jahlil holding down the offensive end, you've got an incredible front court for the future. We'll see what Joel Embiid becomes. The foot injury is real. He may require another surgery. That means maybe another year. So you get a real proven guy, and, you just look at not only the trade, but I love the pickup of J.P. Toko. He's going to be a very interesting defensive presence. He's a high flyer that can really put it down. You add that to the veteran in Jason Thompson and a kid that was really kind of underused last year in Nick Stauskas. You've got a lot of really good pieces, and they're not done yet. There's going to still be more to move. The Golden State Warriors are trying to get out of David Lee's contract. Roy Hibbert's going to get moved, so there's a chance where even more of that cap space could be leveraged as a middleman to extract even more parts.
That's interesting because in free agency, you look around, there's a lot of restricted players that would make sense for Philly, a lot of big men that wouldn't make a lot of sense for Philly, but you just mentioned they're not done yet. So can Hinkie continue to use some of the assets that he's acquired and already has and make this team better in this offseason? Do you think that Sam Hinkie is ready to make a statement that that this team wants to win now?
Well, you can't shortcut the process, and that's a little cliche, but the truth of it is you still have some guys that are 19 and 20, and to expect 19 and 20-year-olds to really be able to compete at a high level is a little unrealistic. But you should start to turn the corner this year. More guys will play. I think that's the bigger part. The fact that every player drafted should play this year, I think is a huge win. But again, you're going to get more from Nerlens Noel. You're going to get more from Isaiah Cannon. You're going to get more from Robert Covington. You'll get more from the guys you do. So more is better. And I think that, the one thing we saw last year, as much as everybody wanted to paint Philadelphia as the team that was trying to tank for draft picks, they were, again, not the team with the worst record in the NBA. They won more games than several teams below them, and I think that'll be the case this year, too. Now, are they going to be knocking on the door on the 8th seed? I think Jahlil Okafor has to be the runaway rookie of the year, which he's capable of being. I think somebody on that team in a perimeter role has to be that 20-point-a-game guy. Until I know who those guys are, I'm not going to disrespect the Detroit Pistons or the Charlotte Hornets. They're better teams in terms of construction, but when you look at where Philly's going, they're headed in a really interesting direction.
Really interesting direction. And a couple of weeks ago, Steve, you were on right before the draft, and I think we were asking about agents talking about not wanting to come to Philly. Do you think now, seeing what they're building and all the assets they have, that cooler heads may prevail and say, you know what, that might be a team that my client wants to be a part of?
Well, they're going to have to change some of their negotiating tactics, especially as it's regarding second-round draft picks. And I understand it; it's a business. It's in some cases, especially in the second round, and undrafted guys, it's a buyer's market. I have a job, you want it. These are the terms I'll give you. Mm-hmm. That's going to need to change a little bit. The Houston Rockets do this as well, so this isn't unique to Philadelphia. As the Rockets use all of their contract advantages to their advantage, and players don't enjoy that. But once you start to turn the corner, once you start to win games, once you start to prove that you're about winning games, then guys want to be a part of that. And certainly when you've got more cap money to offer anybody else, then you start to get really attractive, because at the end of the day, the money does matter, regardless of what some guys will say.
The plan. Everybody asked about the plan. I'm not buying in. I don't like the plan. What's the plan? Is the plan becoming more clear with Sam Hinkie and the Sixers?
Be great, not good. That is the plan. It's as you put it on a T-shirt, great, not good. Michael Carter-Williams spent 100 games on the roster. He was good. He was never going to be great. I don't think that he'll be one of the great players in the NBA. Maybe, but I think after 100 games, you knew he wasn't that guy. I think in Jahlil Okafor, you get a chance to be great. He has, and he's won. He's won a national championship. He's won at the high school level. He's won at the AAU level. This is a guy that's not used to losing games. That's a good thing for your locker room. And when you get a very healthy and motivated Nerlens Noel and the two of those guys start to click, you saw it on the court last year. There was friction. There were moments those guys were not on the same page. So getting everybody on the same page and believing great is far better than good. Go be great. That's what Philly's about right now.
All right, Steve Kyler, Basketball Insiders. Those guys got plenty more on this particular deal, of course, where the Sixers get Stauskas. They also get Jason Thompson from Lenape High, which is about 40 minutes from here. They get Carl Landry, a first-round pick, and then the ability to swap picks with the Kings in 2 seasons that they choose, and then in return, they got 2 guys that, we never heard of. So that's unfortunate.
Well, one more comment, too, on Carl Landry. Think about this. Every team that Carl Landry has been on has been an overachieving, gritty, grimy team. He's been that guy that's made it work in so many different places. That's probably the best piece of the bunch in terms of how do you really go from kind of turning it from bad to good. Carl could be that personality.
Good stuff, Steve, and we enjoy reading your stuff over at Basketball Insiders.
Anytime, my friend.